The RCMP. We've been without a superintendent now for 2.5 months. How's that process going? First of all, and secondly, the new model, how does that impact this process?
Well, and you did touch upon it. I mean, the idea of why we have been without a superintendent, from the RCMP standpoint for that period of time, was because there was discussions with regards to what type of model we use moving forward. And, we have had an acting superintendent at this particular point in time who has been doing an amazing job for our community. It is our understanding now that through this process, we've been able to be specific with regards to what the RCMP looks like. We will have a superintendent for Kelowna. There will be an individual police force which will be located in West Kelowna. There will be an individual police force which will be located in Lake Country. Those superintendents will collectively work together, but they will be individual police forces. It is our understanding that we will have a named individual within our police force in May, somewhere around the May timeframe, to have an individual actively representing our community here. And it's been a process that we've been actively involved in for a number of years, to try to look at individualizing the representation of the RCMP for each of the individual communities, so that Kelowna superintendents and Kelowna's police force is not also trying to service all of those other communities.
Is that why this process to find a superintendent has taken so long? Because we're working within a new model, so to speak?
Correct. If we were looking at obtaining a superintendent for Kelowna the way it existed before, we were looking at an individual who was able to manage a force in range of, probably the third largest force, RCMP force within Canada. Mm-hmm. Now, with the different breakout of individuals and the different calculations with it, it'll be a different individual that they will be looking for. And so when when they're going through that selection process and then bringing them forward to us, the person has a different skill level than potentially somebody who would be dealing with the third largest police force in Canada.
And I know before you had mentioned that there was a possibility of a chief superintendent. I believe that was the position, which is higher than an actual superintendent. I take it that's off the table now, since the model has shifted.
Yes, it is off the table. I mean, that would be, and what we were saying at that particular point in time is there is a certain number of officers that would fall in line for having a chief superintendent or being represented by a chief superintendent. If we were to put in place a superintendent, with our growth, we were going to get to those numbers very quickly, so that we warranted having a chief superintendent. So instead of going through that process of putting in place a superintendent and then getting to the numbers where you should have a chief superintendent, we are now at a point where we know, with dividing up of the different communities and representation accordingly, we know exactly what direction we're looking for.